It was early morning in the small village of Lamu, and the sound of sheep bleating echoed through the hills. Young Juma, a boy of about 16, sat on a rock, watching his flock of sheep graze. He was dressed in simple clothes, worn from years of tending to the animals, and his bare feet were covered in the dust of the dry ground. His village was small, a cluster of huts made from mud and thatch, surrounded by the green hills and dry savanna that stretched as far as the eye could see. Juma was just one of many shepherd boys in the village, but he was different. While the other boys laughed and played, Juma often sat alone, staring out at the horizon, dreaming of something greater. He didn't know exactly what that something was, but he knew it was bigger than the life of a shepherd. Juma had always felt in his heart that he was meant for something more. Juma called his mother, calling from their small hut. "Come inside. It's time to eat." Juma stood up and brushed the dust off his knees. He knew his mother worked hard to provide for them, and he always tried to help her with whatever she needed. As he walked toward the house, his mind wandered. He thought about the kings and chiefs who ruled over the land, who lived in grand houses and commanded armies. He wondered what it would be like to have that kind of power. "Juma," his mother said, placing a bowl of porridge in front of him. "You have such big dreams. I see it in your eyes. But remember, we are humble people. We work hard for what we have, and we must always be content with what the gods give us." Juma smiled at her kindly but didn't answer. He knew she meant well, but he couldn't ignore the feeling in his heart. He felt like he was meant to lead, to do something more than just tending sheep. But how? He was just a shepherd in a small village. "Maybe one day, I will be a great leader," Juma thought to himself as he ate. Months passed, and Juma continued to care for his flock, but his dreams never faded. One hot afternoon, as he sat under a tree watching the sheep graze, a loud noise broke the peaceful silence. Juma's ears pricked up. He stood and looked toward the village. There was smoke rising in the distance. Without a moment's hesitation, Juma rushed toward the village. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him, his heart pounding with fear. As he neared the village, he could see people running, their faces filled with terror. The chief's guards were shouting orders, and everyone was in a panic. "What is happening?" Juma shouted as he grabbed the villager by the arm. "The enemy is coming," the man gasped. "A band of invaders from the north. They have already destroyed 3 villages. They are coming here next." Juma's heart sank. The invaders were known to be ruthless, taking whatever they wanted and leaving destruction in their wake. The village had no army, no weapons. They were defenseless. Juma ran to the village square where the chief was speaking with his council. Chief Komisi, an elderly man with a long white beard, was pacing back and forth, looking worried. "Chief, we must do something," Juma said, stepping forward. "I have an idea. Let me help." The chief turned to him, eyes wide with surprise. "You, a shepherd boy. What can you do?" "We need warriors, not sheep herders." "I may be just a boy," Juma replied calmly, "but I know this land better than anyone. I know where the invaders will come from, and I know the paths through the hills. Let me lead them into the hills. We can trap them there." Chief Komisi hesitated. "You are brave, but you are young. You do not have the strength to face an army." Juma looked the chief in the eye. "I do not need strength. I only need wisdom. Please, give me a chance." The chief considered this for a moment. He looked at his council, then at the villagers, who were gathering in fear. Finally, he nodded. "Very well, Juma. I will trust you. But remember, this is not a game. If you fail, the village will fall." Juma nodded, his heart pounding. He had no time to lose. Juma quickly gathered a group of young men and women, most of them farmers or herders, all untrained in battle. He led them to the hills that bordered the village, where the path was narrow and treacherous. Juma knew that the invaders, unfamiliar with the land, would struggle to follow the winding trails. That night, under the cover of darkness, the invaders marched toward the village, confident that they would easily take the small settlement. But as they reached the foothills, they found themselves trapped. Juma had led his group to set up rocks and tree branches along the paths, blocking the invaders' way. The invaders' leader, a fierce warrior named Keto, shouted orders for his men to clear the path. But as they tried, Juma and his group ambushed them from higher ground. Stones rained down on the invaders, and the young villagers fought with all their might. Juma had no sword, no shield, but he used his knowledge of the land to his advantage. He led his group in a series of clever traps, sending the invaders scattering in all directions. By the time the sun rose, the invaders had been defeated. Keto, the leader, was captured and brought before Chief Komisi. He looked surprised, even fearful, as he knelt before Juma. Juma stood tall, though his heart was still racing from the battle. I did nothing alone. It was the strength of the people that defeated the invaders, not just one man. We are all leaders here. The chief smiled. You are wise beyond your years, Juma. You have done what no one else could. For that, you shall be honored. In the days that followed, the village celebrated. The people sang songs of victory, and Juma's name was spoken with respect and admiration. The elders held a council, and the chief called for Juma to join them. You have proven yourself, Juma, Chief Komisi said. You have saved this village with your wisdom, bravery, and kindness. You did not seek power for yourself, but instead, you served others. For this, the gods have chosen you. Juma looked at the chief in surprise. What do you mean? Juma, the chief said, you are now the king of this village. The people have chosen you, and I have no doubt that you will lead us well. Juma felt his knees weaken. He had never imagined this day would come. The boy who had once dreamed of being a leader was now standing before the people, chosen to lead them. I am honored, Juma said, his voice steady. But I know that a leader is nothing without the people. We will rule together, as one. From that day forward, Juma was no longer just a shepherd. He was King Juma, the leader of his people. He ruled with wisdom, fairness, and kindness. Under his leadership, the village grew prosperous. Crops flourished, trade routes were established, and the people lived in peace. But Juma never forgot where he came from. He continued to lead with the heart of a shepherd, always humble, always willing to serve. And as the years went by, Juma became known far and wide as a wise and just king. But more than that, he became a symbol of true leadership, that greatness comes not from seeking power, but from serving others with humility and wisdom. This story of Juma shows that true leadership comes from serving others, from using wisdom and kindness rather than seeking power for oneself. The story teaches that greatness is not about what you have or where you come from, but about the choices you make and the people you help along the way. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so we can bring you more amazing stories.